Well, I'm about to tell you what Lance did after while he was taking his break. He did something he shouldn't have done, and I'll get to that. But I'm gonna take a break for just one video here because one of my listeners asked a question or made a comment. And remember, you're welcome to do that. You could even affect my story if you want. Uh, and it was a good question. I think it's worth stopping. My listener was wondering about how it came to be that these streets in Richland were given all these names. Who approved them? You know, how was that done? And I want to explain. You have to understand that back in the 1960s, that's how far back this is now, there was a very, very influential English teacher at Richland High School. His name was Richard Mansard. He himself was a descendant of a famous architect, and if they had been working with architecture, if they had names like Corbusier or Franklin Wright or Wright Street, then his name should have been on there. But anyway, he wasn't. But he was very charismatic. He was very influential, and he had taught in that same position, 10th grade English, for two generations at least of students that had gone by. So he's obviously had grandchildren from his first students that he had there. Uh, and I suggested that hopefully everybody would have some teacher like that at some point in their life. Lance had. Well, anyway, he, in his heyday back then, toward the end of his career, he had such charisma that he managed to convince the community, really, that, streets were so often named after politicians or military people, generals, sports heroes sometimes. He thought they should make their city a city of the classics and name streets after people who had influenced the culture itself, writers, thinkers, poets in some case. And as far as who made the choice, well, he was very influential. He didn't dictate it, but it wasn't just a matter of making a, questionnaire about who are the most famous people. It wasn't that. It was more pointed because, well, he just had that influence. So anyway, he had done that. That's where they came from. And that going west, that was his domain. That's all he'd been thinking about. But then the art department and the music department and the science department, they felt, hey, that's not fair. We ought to get in on this too. And he agreed. So going to the north, this would be a little bit beyond the ethno that you know about already. There, three roads diverged going toward the north, and this was art. And the names of them were, the middle one was Da Vinci Road. The one on the right going north was Brunelleschi, I think, Road, and the one on the left was the name of some Dutch master, of the Dutch school of painters, but I don't remember which one it was. And then, of course, there were all those streets in between. Going south, that was the music department's domain. And again, there were three roads that went out. It wasn't perfectly symmetrical, but in principle it was, because it was, the river was there, but it had been laid on this topography. Let's see, going south, the central one was Bach for sure, Bach Road. Then the one on the right, I think it was Mozart Road, and the one on the left, surprise, was Gershwin Road. The Americans had some influence too. Now, Mr. Mansard didn't dictate that by any means. It was, they listened to what he thought because they respected him not only for his knowledge of English literature, but about the humanities in general. Now, going east, that was science, math, technology. That was to be their domain. And that was trickier. Of the three, and there were once again three roads that diverged in a fairly busy city. Well, I should say something else about this city. I don't think I mentioned that Richland, North Virginia, was the kind of city where people that were born there and went to school there, they tended to stay there. They got jobs there. They didn't move away. They liked it there. That's how this one teacher could have been so influential, I think. Well, anyway, what was I going to say? Oh, going east. The middle one was Diderot Road. The one to the right, the southern one, going toward the bay, toward Chesapeake Bay, was Haber-Bosch Avenue. They were called avenues down there because that was really right kind of in the heart of the city, until eventually they became roads. And the one on the north was Nobel Avenue. Now, the streets in between, that was a real dilemma. And maybe I'll tell you more about that when Lance gets on the road the next day, when he actually heads east toward the bay. But now I got to get back to what he did that he shouldn't have done.